Hey there, I'm sick again, but that's never stopped me from putting up a video before, so why start now? I'm YouTube's Carcinoma Killer, and you're watching me live at TAFF Studios. So let's get into it. Hey there, everybody. Alright, now I'm just going to cut to the chase. Come close. I want to tell you folks something. I finally got to see, for the first time ever, a few months back, Private Parts. That's right, the movie about Howard Stern's life. Yeah, and even though it came out back in 1997, well, I wasn't old enough to watch it. But now that I'm years old, I'm definitely old enough to watch it now. And I'm going to be very honest, I was slightly underwhelmed by the whole movie completely. But I was also very confused. Now here's why. See, I was born and raised in California, so all of our radio stations begin with the call sign letter K. And it was really weird to hear Howard Stern talking about the terrible working conditions of having to work at WNBC. Oh, sorry, I said that wrong. WNBC. Sorry, I can't say it as good as Imus, but it's the best I can do. Anyways, that's not important. What is important is the fact that I'm a nerd, and I had to figure out why his radio station started with W and ours started with K. So, I did a little research, went down the rabbit hole, and what I found was pretty interesting. Now, I'm going to share that knowledge with you right now. So, let's start at the beginning, because that's the best place to start. Really thought I'd have a better intro than that. That was just terrible. Don't worry, I can edit all this out. So our story begins back in 1912 when a few countries attended the conference called the International Radio Telegraphs. The purpose of this conference was to assign certain letters to certain countries to use as their call signs in television stations and radio stations. Now, obviously, because we're talking about it so much, here in the States, we were given the letters W and K. And this is really interesting. We were actually given two other letters. We were actually given 4 letters in total. So we have WK, we also have N and A. Now, the reason most of us had never heard of the N and A call signs is because those were given to military radio stations. A was given to the Army and Air Force, N was given to the Navy and Coast Guard. So yeah, that's the main reason a lot of us had never heard of it, because they were given to the military, and I am so glad I'm a nerd, because when I discovered this, I was like, holy cow, this is really neat. Now, obviously, we civilians were given the commercial call signs of W and K. And because the Mississippi River seemed like such a good divide so far, they decided to keep it. So anything east of the Mississippi River was given W as the first letter in their call signs, and anything west of the Mississippi was given K to start off their call signs. Okay, so now here's where things start to get a little weird. Now, you see, if you were to start your own radio station off the coast of California, actually out in the waters, you couldn't start your radio station with the letter K. It would have to start with the letter W, and vice versa on the East Coast. Now, I don't know why the letters are reversed when you get into the waters, but I mean, I've looked online, and so far there's no definitive answer for it. The only 2 answers I've seen that actually make sense to me are 1, it was a miscommunication, makes sense, and 2, it was actually done on purpose. So if you're sailing off the East Coast and you're listening to a nice jazzy radio station, and all of a sudden they say, hey, thanks for listening to K blah blah blah, then you'll know, okay, if it starts with a K, that radio station's coming from the waters. So, you know, like I said, these were the 2 options that made perfect sense. Miscommunication and done on purpose so you could know whether a radio station was coming from the ocean or from the land. Both made sense, that's why I included them. Now, meanwhile, back on dry land, and in 1923, Congress decided that the Mississippi River wasn't exactly the best dividing line, and decided to actually push the dividing line further out west. Now, here's a photo from Flickr.com to actually show you where the dividing line is and still stands to this day. But thanks to a grandfather clause, a lot of the old radio stations that were there before the dividing line got moved actually were allowed to keep their old call signs. Now, remember the grandfather clause because that's going to show up again. In 1928, the Federal Radio Commission decided to introduce a few new rules. Now, one of these new rules was that all TV and radio stations now needed to have a call sign that was 4 letters in length. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because before then, you had the choice of either having your call signs be 3 letters or 4. Now, remember the grandfather clause? Well, it's actually coming back right now because you see, thanks to the grandfather clause, any radio station that was around before 1928, the official change, they actually were allowed to keep their 3-letter call sign. And you can actually still find these 3-letter radio stations and TV stations to this day. So, if anybody decides to approach you and ask why their favorite local radio station only has 3 letters in the call name and everyone else has 4, you can look that person dead in the eyes and say, "Mister, it got grandfathered that way. Thanks to the grandfather clause. And because you clicked on this video, whether on accident or on purpose, you now have this information, so feel free to use it to pick up ladies or fellas. I mean, it's probably a good conversation starter, right?" Hey everybody, I just want to take this opportunity right now to thank you for watching this video. It truly means a lot to me. I've actually done a lot of research into this subject. I've never been happier to be a nerd because a lot of stuff that I discovered was pretty interesting and pretty fascinating, and thank goodness I have no life at all, so I could actually dedicate oodles of time to actually doing the research. So once again, I want to thank you very much for watching the video. Please, if you're here, feel free to watch any of my other videos. Click right there to make me smile. Bye everybody.